Welcome to the show tonight. I'm very honored to have on the podcast tonight for my 100th interview, Rodney Dunsmore, legendary thrash vocalist for Devastation, our homegrown Devastation band. They went out to conquer the world, but they started here in Corpus. Rodney, how are you doing tonight?
Very good, man. Thanks for having me, Tony.
You guys came together and created something that was very inspirational to myself, as well as I think my generation of artists, as well as maybe some guys before me and maybe after me. And right. I've been very forward by telling guys, hey, you want to know where Corpus Christi metal's from? You got to hear Devastation. You got to hear it. Take it back from the Violent Termination and listen to the catalog and hear the progression, the growth, the development, and going from that beginning band, that first album, to making such a huge album at Maury Sound. It's like that was the top of the crop, man. When that was going on and you guys were recording, there was no bigger, no better place to go record at that was current, that was putting out heat, big time badass heavy metal than Maury Sound. We'll get to a little bit of that, but what I want to get started with is that I want to paint a picture, Rodney. Back when I was a kid, I must have been 86, and it was a Metallica Master of Puppets show. You were there.
Yeah.
And you didn't miss any metal shows. You didn't miss it because I was there, and I always saw you because I tried not to miss them. And I think my first one might have been, I don't know which one came first. It was Night Ranger or Animal Eyes, or I know I missed Creatures of the Night. But when it came to that Metallica Master of Puppets, I think I was 10th row, middle section from the stage, in row C to a little bit off to the right. Yeah. And I'm there waiting for the guys that already played. And I think you had front row or second or third row seats, because I remember you walking up to the front and I saw you in your war vest. And I think you were with Edward and Gus. Edward and Gus, you guys hung all the time. And I was like, that's fucking Rodney, man. Dude, I want a fucking vest like that. I want to fucking sing for the best fucking metal band in town. Look at him and Ed. Oh man, I want to hang with those guys. One day I'm going to know these guys. And I didn't get the pleasure to be able to hang in the circles as you guys were doing your thing here in town. But whenever I happened to cross paths with y'all, every member of the band had been just so generous and so gracious to, us fans and all those locals that really looked up to y'all. And I think that is one of the coolest things about all you members in Devastation, was that it never was an ego trip. And that's what I always loved about interacting with the guys from Deva, because you guys are just such talented, but very humble, but kick-ass guys. Kick-ass guys that.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
And
I don't know. There's no reason for us to not be that way.
Right.
We realized what happened with us. We kind of had some luck to get signed and all that. And we weren't some super great talented band. I mean, toward the end, we got better as we went along, but we were just kids, man, trying to make some music and have fun doing it. And we had no idea what was going to come out of it. And, it started small and it just grew into something big, and we were able to put out records and tour. But, we're just kids from Corpus, man, just like you, just like everybody else. We'll always be that, nothing else,
I love that, man. I love that. How old were you when Dave hit you up to join to become the singer for this new band that he was putting together?
I was 18. I was right out of high school. Fresh out of high school. One of my best friends in school at the time was Alex Robles. He sang for Final Assault, and me and him used to hang, and because there wasn't. I went to King. There were some metalheads there, but it definitely wasn't plentiful. But me and Alex used to hang out, and every time I'd want to go to a show up in San Antonio, I would always ask him, because he was able to go, for one, and I could see him at school and invite him or whatever. So we came up and saw the Slayer vs. Slayer show. We saw
classic
Motorhead, Merciful Fate. But the difference was, like, I was getting into heavier stuff and the thrash and the looking for heavier and heavier as we were going along. And Alex, of course, was a great vocalist, man. This guy could sing his ass off. So he always wanted to hear the bands with good singers like, he loved Lizzie Borden. We came up to see Lizzie Borden. He loved Militia, Slayer, all these bands that had great singers,
Yeah.
And I remember at Slayer, he hated LA Slayer because, Tom Araya doesn't sing good. And, he loved Merciful Fate, stuff like that. But yeah, I was hanging out with those guys, and because they were like, that kind of spawned off of Virgin Force, because Alex left Virgin Force and made Final Assault, and Virgin Force was big. They won some big C101 Battle of the Bands at the time, and they were just kind of they were the first band to be on top of everything for heavy metal in Corpus. And
that's Pete Penales, right, on guitar?
Pete, yeah.
Was it Joey Perez on bass?
I think so, and then Jesse on drums.
Jesse Esquivel. Oh,
what a great band! They used to play at that Uncle Wade's club on Air Street. I was pretty young. I didn't get to see much of that, but I saw him a few times. But Alex formed Final Assault, kind of shifted over, and Dave. I don't know how he met Dave. Oh, I think he met Dave through Mike, the bass player. But so Dave was in that for several years, and when he jumped out and asked me to sing, and of course I had no idea how to sing or if I wanted to, but I said, what the hell? I'll give it a shot, because we were just looking for a band. There was nobody playing thrash in Corpus. Everything was going on in Austin or San Antonio, and we thought, we'll just play because we like it, and we didn't know how things would turn out. We thought, shit, we might just be throwing parties and drinking beer and have people come hang out and play some music. But it morphed into our very first show ever was opening for Anthrax and Hellstar at the Ritz. So we kind of bypassed all that playing parties and stuff like
right.
We went straight to that, and then once you do that, you're kind of like, you get a taste of it, and you want to just play big shows and do stuff like that. So we kind of just refocused ourselves, in other words, and said, hey man, let's take the band serious, and let's see if we can do some cool stuff, and I don't know how we went over at the show. I can't remember. It's so long ago, but I mean, it seemed like the people liked us, and they were yelling at the end, so that was good enough for us. I know we only had 5 songs, which were the 5 songs off our demo, and but it was cool and it was fun, but that's how it all got rolling. But I was 18 when that all started.
Man, Rodney, I feel very honored that I was at the first show, because I was there at the Spread of Disease at the Ritz. That was a fucking kick. Hellstar off the fucking Running with the Pack, the first Hellstar. Oh shit, they sounded great. Oh man, and Anthrax, they were hard, man. Fucking
it was a great show, man.
Charlie Benante, man, he was doing that shit on drums that no guys were doing yet, and just pushing it. And you guys kicked ass. You represented. I know. I was like, yes, fuck yeah. So that was the first gig for you guys. Wow.
Very first.
And show. I love going to the Ritz. So I know I also saw you guys open for Exodus on Pleasure of the Flesh with Celtic Frost on the Into the Pandemonium. That was a badass show.
Yeah, that was a good show too. Yeah. We opened up for Overkill and Testament.
Shit. Was that here in Corpus?
Yeah, at the Ritz. Yeah, that was 87.
Oh fuck! How did I miss that? Shit.
Some other ones at the.
What about King Diamond?
King Diamond was Sunken Gardens and at the Villarreal in McAllen.
Abigail tour.
Fatal Portrait, I think.
Oh, even better! Holy shit! Right at the start.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was Fatal Portrait. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Hell yeah. The end of the summer slam sessions there at the Stardust were always something to look forward to. And the crowds kept getting bigger. Thanks to Nighthawk Entertainment for providing the sound and getting the place together. And Phil just started, he believed in you guys. He believed in you guys. He saw the crowd was coming. He goes, where are all these fucking kids coming from? You get like 500-600 kids out of the blue, and they're loving this shit. So shout out to Nighthawk for making that happen. And those shows between Rotting Corpse, Angkor Wat, and Devastation kept getting bigger and more. Just the anticipation would grow up year after year. And it would be something that me and my buds would always look forward to. I was definitely too young to drink, but I hung out with older guys, and the older guys would drink me under the table, but I would try and keep up with them. So I don't remember too much of the details, but I know it was just the best of times, bro. So great.
Yeah, those shows we had to, like, it wasn't like Austin and San Antonio. We had no metal clubs that we could just go set up and play, So
yeah,
to do a concert, you had to do it yourself. So I remember I was working at Taco Bell at the time, but I would go rent the Stardust. I think they charged $300 or $400. Then I hired Phil with those lights. He would always be about $200, $250 for.
You made all that happen?
Yeah, yeah. And
awesome.
Then the sound, we would do the sound, but yeah, even before that, in my senior year of high school back in '85, I brought down Nasty Savage and did the same thing. I rented out the Stardust and brought him down, and I lost my ass, but it was fun. It was a good time, and still to this day, I'm still friends with Nasty Ronnie and Dave Austin and all those guys. And it's there's a unique thing about that show because it was December 30th of 1985. And as they left, they were driving back to Florida. It was the last show of the little tour of theirs. And so they stopped for New Year's Eve in New Orleans on the way back. And the bass player, Fred Dregeshan, he did something, busted his hand through a plate glass window and messed up his hand. And he never played again. That was his last show ever in the band. And I've even seen him a couple times in Florida. All those guys are so cool and they stay in touch, So,
yeah.
As a high school kid working at Taco Bell, it's worth it to lose $300 or $400. But, you make good friends for life, and those guys are, they're still kicking today. It's only Nasty Ronnie in the band, but they're still going and still doing it. They played Hell's Heroes a couple years ago.
Yeah, I saw that. Did Hallows Eve also play that night?
They were on the flyer, but they didn't show up. It was Juggernaut. Okay. We brought in Juggernaut from San Antonio.
Ooh, San Antonio, yeah.
That was their first show in Corpus. But, it was billed with Hallows Eve, but that just didn't happen. They didn't make it.
All right. Yeah, I didn't make it to that show, but I still have a copy of that flyer here somewhere. Yeah. And my friend from Corpus Christi Ribs, shout out to Sergio Elizondo, who basically a Corpus Christi metal and punk rock historian. I love that he's brought back the attention of all the old days and is always sharing any kind of good vintage stuff that he's got. And let me get right back on track here. Yep. I wanted to make sure that, like you mentioned, you hadn't sang before when Dave hit you up. But I remember I did some research, and I remember hearing on another podcast you did, Dave saying, you ain't got to be a good singer. You just, just try. It's all right. You don't need to be that guy. And that's kind of the way I looked at it too. I didn't have to be, Jeff Tate. I didn't got to be that guy. I could easily be Henry Rollins, just like take it raw. And so back in those days, those bands that were head of the scene were Slayer and Exodus. So a lot of the early singers, sang to them to kind of get their own groove going on. Mm-hmm. Was there any non-thrash artists that you kind of pulled some influence on to kind of get you into your groove?
Singing wise, no. Like in the beginning, man, I had no idea what I was doing, to be honest. We made this band, and now looking back, I can look at it now looking back. I wish we had started doing covers, but Dave totally didn't want to do that. He wanted to be an original band, write stuff from the get-go. Didn't want to mess with covers. But, when you bring in a guy like me, I had never sang at all, and I didn't even know how to sing or what to do. So as you hear on our first demos and even the studio, and even up to the first album, man, I don't know what I'm doing. It's just the worst barbaric vocals you can imagine. but each time, I try to learn a little more and progress and what have you. But I didn't have anything to practice on or kind of. So when you're putting vocals to a song that doesn't even exist, it's kind of hard if you don't have a style or you don't have it, which I didn't have. So I look back at that and I kind of wish we went in the studio the very first time we ever went in the studio, and it was all ready to record that album, Violent Termination. The demos that we did were just, Dave had this friend, George Blay. He would just come over to our practice. He had a little ghetto box, and he would hang a microphone from the ceiling, and, he would, rig all this stuff up, and we would just go through, practice the songs. Well, that was the demo. Yeah. I know people thought it was better than that because, we always wanted to look professional. So, I would go to this place on Everhard, I forget the name, but it was a printing shop, and we made like badass covers so that it looked like, damn, like these guys know what they're doing, when we really didn't. But we had professional covers, and then it folded out the demo, and you read inside, and there's like merchandise to order and posters and buttons and like what band has all this crap? We were trying to look professional from the get-go, and it was kind of funny, but so it seemed like we knew what we're doing, but we didn't have a clue, but that first time we should have went in the studio to do a demo, not an album. And maybe then by the time we did do an album, I would have got better, everybody would get better and stuff like that. But hey, it's done already, and it's history, so it's there for everybody to see. So
yes. And one of my favorite tracks is Meet Your Maker, and that was one of the ones that I remember you guys doing live, that kind of stayed as a staple in the early days. And that it had the hook, and a track like that, Meet Your Maker, man, it was hard. And that one kind of stands out right there. And
yeah,
I know
that one. It was sketchy.
Yeah, dude, hell yeah, especially that one right there. And that early lineup, recording that, shout out to Jesse, shout out to Edward, Dave, rest in peace, man. It just it seems like almost yesterday, man, when I look at the picture, the group picture of like that downward shot of you guys looking up and taking that shot. Like, man, it's like, wow. Right. Seems like just yesterday when I saw these guys and was just like, wow, they're making it happen. And those are the kind of things that inspired us. But I know that you were kind of all behind making things move for the band, whether it was getting shows and calling venues and say, hey, can we play for Slayer? Can we open up for this band or that band? And really, that's what it takes. It takes that hustle. And you were I knew that you were making that happen because I was good friends with Dave Lozano back in the high school days. We graduated in '89 together. And so every so often, he'd say, yeah, Rodney takes care of everything, dude. He does this, he does that. And in my bands, I always had to do that. And it's not an easy job to do. But you really you got to believe in your band. You got to believe in the cause and see the vision of where you want to go to have that kind of drive. And you had that. You had that. And you didn't work, you made your skill as a singer just get better as the whole thing grew as a band. So I think Dave got better as a guitar player, Ed as a bass player. You did some drum changes. You got Louis in there. You ended up getting Dave as well, but everybody just kept getting better. That Signs of Life release, it sounded good, man. I could hear early Rodney on the vocals coming off from early Idolatry. Getting in there.
I always thought I was better of a businessman than a singer. That's like I would do the hustle, and all the legwork to push the band and stuff. Like today, people can rag on Lars all they want, and Lars is drumming. Everyone wants to make fun, whatever. But Metallica wouldn't be where they were without Lars, because he's the one that got him on the Metal Blade compilation, and he was the guy that was so into it, like just a little hustler, man. He was out doing everything to promote that band, and James Hetfield would have not got him on Metal Blade at the beginning, and would have not done all that. Sure, he's the main talent, but it takes everyone, and I did those things. I mean, I had to make up, for my lack of skill somewhere, So
I like that. Yeah.
I did all that, and that's where I really felt I could shine, because I always had a good business mind. When I was working at Taco Bell, I was already during the early Devastation, I was assistant manager, and I mean, man, they were ready to make me manager, but I would have to go on salary, and then I couldn't take all these days off, and I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. I'm gonna try this band thing, see how it goes. And so, I always felt more comfortable there, because that's the kind of stuff I really excelled at. But I did do all that, pushing the band, the legwork, that end of it, for sure.
And it made the difference between you guys staying local and getting into a national label with Combat Records, because you put the work in. And and for folks that don't know about how it is in a band, no one calls you. No one's going to call you. You got to call somebody else, and you got to make a crowd. You got to bring something to the show so to get that spot instead of somebody else. And most of the time, when you're working with like guys like Casey Lane out of the House of Rock, you just got to beat them to the hustle. Be that band that's going to call and say, hey, can we get that show? Yeah, man, absolutely. We need a band. You're a good band. Yeah, let's make it work.
Yeah.
But you were the difference, that catalyst that I think made the band become as successful that it became. And without that, it wouldn't happen. So you were the right guy. Dave knew it. He knew the magic that you were bringing to the table. He just didn't know to the extent that he was going to end up reaching. And let me also, while we're talking about Lars, I'm glad you mentioned him. I love the picture with Lars in the Devastation shirt. How did he get that? I love that.
Yeah, that same tour that you talked about earlier, they played the Coliseum. They also played in San Antonio at the Majestic. Probably Ed and Gus again. I probably went up there with them. But yeah, we met them and we were hanging out with them. And I gave, because I had some pictures I had taken of them the previous year at the Ritz in Corpus, and
yes,
kind of became friends with Kirk. And so Kirk would, for a few years anyway, he would always give me a pass when they would play. That kind of stopped after Justice for All. But yeah, I met him and stuff like that. And of course, by then, Devastation was a thing, you know. So what the heck, I'm going to pass out shirts. So I gave James and Lars one. There's a picture with James on one on the inside of the first record. And then, but somebody called me, man, maybe, I don't know, 10 or 7 years ago, saying, man, I got this magazine. Look at this. Lars is wearing a Devastation. I'm like, I had never seen that picture before. I was like, holy crap, what magazine is that? Or what book is that? And it was just a book about the recording of albums. And for them, it was Master of Puppets, but, or maybe it was, no, I don't know. I think it was Master of Puppets. But anyway, it just showed Lars in the studio wearing the Devastation shirt. And I was like, holy crap. Of course, I sent that to Dave right away, and he freaked out. And I was like, wow, that was crazy, because that was the very first shirt we ever did. That white Devastation shirt with the Destruction looking logo that Dave.
Yes, right, Destruction, right, from the Infernal Overkill style. Yes, man. But that's classic. I love it. I would sport that in a heartbeat. And what was different is that you guys would do white shirts.
The first.
I don't really do white, but you guys were fucking. You had balls. You were daring. You put out white shirts.
I don't even remember. I don't even think it was us. I think it was the artwork we showed the guy at the shirt shop. He's like, oh, I can't print this on a black shirt. Like, he didn't even.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'm a screen printer now, so I know the gist of everything. But he was like, I can't make this work on a black shirt. You got to do white. And like, if I would know back then what I know now, I'd say, dude, you're lazy. Of course you can, you know. But no, I think it was just his choice, made a white shirt, but it looked cool, and we didn't care, you know. We just wanted to have some shirts out at the time, you know. It definitely wasn't a predetermined thing on our part to be like, oh, let's go against the grain and have white. Nah, it was just the guy didn't want to do black or something. But our second shirt ever was black, so. I
get it. Yeah, I like the story behind that. So it's like, hey, because metal's always black. But like I said, I was a big fan of Angkor Wat, and those guys always wanted to stay with white. They would rarely put a black out. And I'd be like, man, I gotta fucking buy a white shirt. I guess if it's gonna be Angkor Wat, I'll buy one.
Very rarely do they have a black shirt.
I bet you don't have very many white shirts in your catalog or in your closet, right?
Believe it or not, I have like all those early Angkor Wat shirts, man, and they're all those white ones. Yeah, I probably have 30 Angkor Wat shirts. So
whoa,
if anybody wants to buy them, let me know, because they don't fit me anymore. I'm getting ready to start parting out some old classic shirts.
I love that. I'm gonna have to hit you up, because I know I got a couple in mind with the fucking skanking clown going at. Yes, great designs. Yep. Well, let me tell you. You know, in regards to your Texas roots, Corpus Christi is a long way from LA, from the Bay Area thrash scene, from the East Coast. So, is there anything maybe about South Texas that may have shaped, you know, Devastation's sound as you guys were getting started?
That's a good question, but I don't know. I don't think we ever really took where we're from to like play a part in our sound. Really, we were just heavily, obviously, influenced by Slayer, Dark Angel, and I mean, we would always tell people like, Texas, all the bands from Texas were so diverse, like, man, you had what they would call the Bay Area scene, the Bay Area sound, you got Heath and Testament, Exodus, there's a little similarity in all those. And, the New York thing with Anthrax, Overkill, whatever. But like Texas, man, you have, like you'll Watchtower from Austin, Hellstar from Houston, Rigor Mortis from down, like every place had a different band with a different sound, a different style. And it was just a big melting pot in Texas, very diverse, everything. And even the punk scene, man, in the early 80s in Austin was crazy big, like it was one of the biggest in the country. And so, I mean, Texas just had a whole lot to offer. I don't think it played too much of a part in our sound, but we're always proud to be from here. And every show, all the tours we did, be it Sepultura, Death, Dark Angel, every middle of the set, somewhere in the show, we would always say, hey, we're from Corpus Christi, Texas. We were always proud of that. We would always promote that. And, because, we knew there was no metal bands out from Corpus doing what we were doing. And, like, hey, here's our chance to put our little home city on the map, so we always tried to do that.
And so proud that you did. Hell yeah. Well, being a Corpus Christi native myself, there hasn't been many guys like yourself that have gone out there and been able to share their original music with the world. Danny Lohner is one of the guys that was able to do it with 9 Inch Nails, and there's been like Marcus Leal out of Alice doing it with El Nino. So a very small handful have really gotten out of Corpus. But that's what's been inspirational for us, man, because we saw you got out. And, on another note, speaking of getting out, because I'm thinking about it's top of mind, Devastation lets out Idolatry. You jump on a tour with Obituary, Cause of Death, and Sepultura, Beneath the Remains. That's like the biggest, best tour as a metalhead that I think anybody could ever be on. And you guys are playing, I believe, in the Villarreal down in, is that far? Or maybe in McAllen?
McAllen, yeah.
Right. Well, like I mentioned, me and Dave were high school best friends. And so when he was going to go on tour and go play down there, me and Brutal Richard from Brutal Poverty and a couple of our friends went down there, man. And we were getting juiced up on the way. And we stopped at we were told we were 10 minutes away from the venue. We were already in Edinburgh or Far or McAllen. We stopped at a gas station. Brutal Rich threw away an empty 12-pack of beer. We jumped in the car and kept going up. Undercover cop was parked behind us, pulls out right behind us, hits his lights on us. We get pulled over. We had some junk. We had an open beer. All of us went to jail. I never got to see the show.
Dang.
But a couple of our friends, Rose and Danita, Rose had an uncle who was a judge there in town. She made a phone call. She got out. She made it to the show. Me and Richard stayed overnight. They thought Richard was in town to pick up some drugs. He thought he was a cartel member because he had a bunch of tattoos. And so I never got to make it to that Deva show. So my way of making up to it was making it to when you guys did it again. I think maybe, I don't get the math right, but when you brought it back and y'all played in Victoria for Soulfly.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about the reunion thing. Yeah,
the reunion thing. So I was like, man, I'm going to be able to that one. Fuck yeah. All these years afterward, they're coming back. Hell yeah. And then, Alex jumped on that one and so did Fidel. And those are my boys from the Killamore band. So I was like, man, this is the best of the best. I can't wait. And that was just an incredible show. I think it was maybe the first show of the tour. And just love seeing you guys getting back. And I was able to enjoy that moment. It was incredible, but it was just a shame how I missed the first one. But,
yeah, that's crazy.
I fought the law and the law won. Shit. Well, the next one I got for you, the lyrics on Idolatry, they're venomous towards, whether it's religion or any kind of authority, man. So was there maybe a specific moment or an event in the late 80s that kind of maybe gave you some inspiration for some of the lyrics for like, Idolatry?
I don't know. Those lyrics were kind of just, I don't know. I didn't want to do the same old thing that everybody else was doing, at that time. everything was getting, dark and evil and Satan and this and that. And I thought, like, man, why not come at it from a different point of view, a more positive and, goodwill kind of, it's definitely not like, there were some great Christian metal bands like Believer and Tourniquet and Living Sacrifice, but we were never that by any means, But I definitely, I think I did make a sort of an effort to have some positive lyrics on that album, just because damn, you got Deicide and all these bands and just nothing wrong with that, I like it. I bought the first Deicide when it came out, and Morbid Angel, bought the first Morbid Angel. In fact, we played the Morbid Angel at my wedding, man, when the DJ played it. Yeah, all the old people started walking out all crazy. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah. So I like those bands and I like what they do. But when everybody starts doing it, then it just becomes a little too much, So I always wanted to be just if we can be different, let's be different. That was my thought behind all that.
Oh, and I think one song that makes me think about, you not trying to be on that kind of on someone else's tip was a song that it's one of my favorites. It just grew so fucking badass. That Free Will. Fucking Will. It's one of my favorites. Every track, it's like listening to, let's see, like something from, I love a lot of hardcore background. I love crossover. So like whether it's The Accused or Speak English or Die or Join the Army, I can listen to it from front to back. And that's how Idolatry is for me, man. And it had so many different things that I love, man, because it was the beginning of death metal kind of coming around. So you had a lot of badass double bass that kept up with the death metal shit, and you had that ferocious fucking guitar that Dave was famous for, that thrash attack, and then you had your vocals on top of that was kind of like Dark Angel-ish style. That was just fucking killer. It was just a real magical kind of album that kind of brought everything together, where if you were a thrash metal guy, it was like the perfect blend of crossover between thrash and death metal. And thrash metal is not easy to write. Death metal, I think, is maybe a little bit. Nothing's really easy to write, but I think thrash it's some sort of ferocity to it, some sort of relentlessness to it between the guitarist and the drummer, and the vocal is just coming in there with the right kind of phrasing that all just is a little bit more scarier, harder, and more aggressive than pure American metal or metalcore. It's the kind of shit that would start those crazy pits and get people thrown in the air and guys getting their buddy by the head and just starting fucking getting crazy. It just created some kind of different kind of energy. And you guys were you had that shit going on, man, with that album, Idolatry. So, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna go to another one, but finish that thought for me, Rodney.
I was just gonna say what really turned around things for us, man, was when we got Henry in the band, because we were a 4-piece, and we did what we could do with that and everything, but Dave wanted another guitar player, and we knew it was going to be hard shoes to fill. Yeah, but I remember we saw some show. It was a local show, but it was out at that El Indio Dance Land. I don't even think it's probably not even still there anymore. But
Cannibal
Henry was playing with this band Mercenary, and man, we were watching that show, and we were just like, like I think me and Dave felt like the guys in Metallica felt when they were watching Cliff for the first time, and like, we got to have that dude. You know what I mean? Like, we have to have that dude. And we saw Henry, and we were like, man, this dude, we got to have this guy, Henry was playing and singing and thrashing and just like, and the songs were good, man. And it was just like, I mean, you could see this guy was just oozing with talent, right? So we had to, we talked to him. We had no idea what he would say. But, by this time, people, if you were into metal around Corpus, you had heard of us by now. So Henry was open and eager to do it, man, and which surprised me. And so he jumped in, and man, the writing style changed, everything changed, and you know, we had kind of a perfect storm. Like for one album, we had magic in a bottle with that Idolatry, because that album, you know, like I'll tell you straight to your face, our first album's horrible. It's got some original tunes on there that, I mean, by original, I mean, maybe this doesn't even sound like anybody else, but maybe that's because it's so bad. I don't know. But
No.
you know, Signs of Life, we grew a little bit.
Yes.
You can just hear some Dark Angel. We were worshiping Dark Angel during Signs of Life. You can hear that, some Slayer all over the place. But man, Idolatry, like we honed it in, we slowed it down, we wrote some good songs, and just the playing, man. Henry on that album, you know, I'll compare him to James Hetfield, man. He played his ass off, man. He was double and triple, 4 guitar tracks, just stacking and stacking and stacking. It got the heaviest sound, you know. But that was a big key for us, you know, getting him, because he and what a guy to work with, you know, because he could have easily done 2 or 3 weeks of practice with us and said, I'm out of here, man. You guys don't know what you're doing, you know, because he's a player, a songwriter. He's good, you know. And I'm not saying Dave Burke isn't. Dave wrote the craziest of all the Devastation riffs. Dave had a weird way of writing, but, you know, Dave was kind of like Hanneman. He just wrote a little bit weird, different stuff, but it was real catchy stuff, you know.
Yes.
But Henry really came in with the playing and the talent, and man, he really took us to another level where, like, shit, you know, we can be taken seriously. We can, and that's when, you know, the first demo we did with Henry is the one, of course, that got us signed to Combat, and it got us on some big tours, and of course, you know, the rest is history. But I don't think that he got the props that he should have, because he really played a big part in changing the sound of the band. You know, dual guitars, you can do way more harmonies and rotating solos and stuff like that. And you know, he came from a musical family. I remember he used to tell me his mom wrote songs and for a lot of Tejano artists in Corpus and elsewhere, you know. But yeah, he really changed it up for us. And I think, you know, that's when we thought that we could hang in the big leagues, you know, and go on tour with Sepultura and go on tour with Dark Angel, you know. I think he took us to that level. So
wow,
he needs to have the props. So
I love that, Rodney. He does need to have the props. Big shout out, Henry Elizondo. I've had the pleasure of hanging out with him several times and being at a few of his other band, like Apparition, being at that jam with him and Mike Bettis and Alonso on drums, and he is that kind of guy, dude. I've seen him when I had Killamora, he had that band called Beyond the Blood, and he sang and played guitar. Mm-hmm. Badass thrash, just like that Deva kind of thrash, and that's why we loved it, because he kept that spirit alive. And
I think he's still doing that. Yeah, they just got back together, I think. Yeah,
I think
a show a couple of weeks ago.
Does he have a band called Universal Machine?
That I don't know about, but I know I saw some footage of Beyond the Blood was back together and did a show.
Shit.
Oh, wait a minute, that Universal Machine. Somebody, I think Jesse told me something about that. I saw Jesse one time when I was down in Corpus. Was it? If it wasn't Jesse, somebody did mention that, but that was more like of a hard rock thing, if I remember right, because. Somebody played me like a cover song. I can't remember what it was now, but anyway,
he was singing on that. He's got a great fucking voice too.
Yeah, he does, man. He's so talented, man. He really is. He can do it all. You know? Yes,
man. So that was part of that magic where you said the perfect storm. Everybody coming together right there. At that time, there was so much music coming out that was available. You know, in the '90s, right then. Right before, the ideas are coming together for the recording of Idolatry in '91. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to our friends that are joining us in the chat room. My friend Drewski, he was wondering, what Taco Bell did you used to work at?
Which one didn't I work at? I started at the one on, when I was at King in high school, I worked at the one on Alameda, which it's probably not there anymore, but
by Robert Street?
Exactly, that's the one. Yeah. Cool story. Not to change it up on you, but real quick, a 10-second story. I was working one night. Of course, I took the night before off because Kiss played in town on the, I want to say Lick It Up tour, right? Well, the next day was Paul Stanley's birthday. So they rented out this bar, club called like Confetti's or something like that. It was over there off of Robert Street, right? Well, it's late at night and I'm getting ready to close up. And dude, you know who walks in? Eric Carr walks in with he has this army jacket, you know, big old hair.
Yeah.
And he asked me, he goes, "Hey, do you guys sell hot chocolate?" And I'm like, "No, we don't have hot chocolate." I go, "We got coffee, but I don't even have any. I can make you something." He goes, No, that's okay. And wait for a minute. And then, man, me just like, I don't know why, but I didn't say anything about him being in Kiss or whatever.
Yeah.
He walks out and I'm like, that was Eric Carr, son of a bitch. You know, like, anyway, but that was a cool story from working at. But I worked at that Taco Bell for a couple of years, and then they transferred me to the one on Air Street, which used to be at the corner of Ayers and Galahar. I know that's not there anymore because I drove out there.
That's gone, right.
And I worked at the one. Then I went back to work at the one on Nile.
That's still there.
That's where I quit. I finally, like, they're like, "Hey, you're gonna have to cut this hair and all this," and I'm like, "Nah, I'm gonna try the band thing." You know? And I went next door to Whataburger because they would let you have long hair if you wore hair.
Yeah. There you go. Someplace is gonna work with me. That way I can fucking rock out, have my hair. That's huge. I wasn't always bald, Rodney. I don't know if you remember, if you ever seen a picture with me, but I guess it's been 31 years I've been bald now. And it's just, I was in food service and I'm in food service now and wearing the hat all the time. My hair started receding. So I started cutting it from the sides and making it a thick mohawk to a fine mohawk. And then I ended up keeping like that missing link fucking braid in the back until I finally took it off. But working in food service, I've stayed in here because it allows me to have the kind of lifestyle where I can jam on the weekends, rehearse at night, and I put my time in. I've been doing it for almost 40 years, so I got the day shifts. I don't have to work nights anymore. I work at the university, matter of fact, so it's like daytime hours, banker hours.
You gotta do what you gotta do for your lifestyle, and
for
like
your
I want to say, man, like people who like, you know, like you, to me, you're like the Corpus version of Jason McMaster. You know, you're like, you got all
that's
these
a compliment.
You're promoting things, and you always see that you're promoting the show, or you're doing this, or you're helping smaller bands out, or you got a cover band, you got a real band, you got this band. You know what I mean? Like that's Jason. You know, he's a lifer, man.
That's Jason.
Like, and for Jason, man, music pays the bills, and I think people, when they start off, you don't ever think that music's going to pay the bills, you know, like you do it as a hobby or whatever, but he's another guy who has so much talent that, you know, it just, the talent rises to the top, you know, and he has it. So he's able to work and pay his bills just off music, you know, and that's a great thing, you know. I mean, he's the ultimate lifer, you know, he's phenomenal.
I love that you brought him up. He is the ultimate lifer, man. That's Watchtower right there. That's Dangerous Toys. This guy has been, you know, in the heydays of MTV. He was able to break out the Texas scene and become, you know, a #1 hard rock video.
MTV. Yeah.
Yeah, man. He enjoyed all that, and he's still rocking Dangerous Toys, and he still sounds fantastic. I saw some video with him playing with Solitude Eternus, you know, a few weeks back.
He sang for Accept when they're singing down. He sang for Armored Saint.
Yes.
For Solitude. I mean, the dude there's like no, I mean,
what
I honestly think where I freaked out the most was he had a band called Kill 'Em All that played Metallica covers. He's the head field. He plays the rhythm and sings. And I'm just like, what can't this guy do? You know, like, he's phenomenal.
He's phenomenal, dude. Oh, I love it. Hell yeah. Okay. Next thing I wanted to ask, you know, Devastation started off, you know, doing a lot of local clubs, but then before you know it, you're on the national scene. You're playing with bigger bands. You get Sound of Combat Records, and you're touring with Dev. You're touring with Dark Angel. Was there anything that was a big culture shock going from playing to Texas clubs to now touring with these other bands playing bigger venues?
No, we kind of fit right in. I mean, we were just. It's weird that for some reason we just got along with everyone, man. Like when we got called up to do that, to finish that Dark Angel tour, and it was because it was billed as Death and Dark Angel. It was Leave Scars and Leprosy, and
hell yeah,
it was like a combat co-headliner thing. And about halfway through, those guys could not stand each other. And Bill Andrews, I think, cussed out their merch guy, and the merch guy leveled him somewhere in Florida. And then yada, yada, it all goes on. And so they dropped off, and our booking agent called us the next day like, man, is there any way you guys could jump on this Dark Angel tour, finish it off with them? And we're like, say what? Right. What are you talking about? You know, so we, you know, hightail it to, I think we met up in Louisiana or somewhere like that. But but we got along with them good. And we had already done a little bit of a Leprosy tour with Death earlier in January of that year when they just did a little Texas run. We opened 4 or 5 shows for them. So, I mean, we got along with both of them. And that's how it was with we toured with Laws Rocket and DBC, Sepultura. I mean, we just like, we were very adaptable. I mean, like, you know, because we just kind of knew, like, you know, you can't act stupid, or you can't be cocky or have egos or whatever. We're just dumb kids from Corpus, you know. We're lucky to be in this position, you know what I mean? Like, why would we do anything to ruin it? So yeah, here, if you need us to set up over here and only play 30 minutes, that's what we're gonna do, you know. We just did what it took, you know. And I think we adapted quite well. I mean, there was nothing really overwhelming for us. I mean, I think the first time we really got overwhelmed was these guys with this magazine down in Mexico flew us down there, and like either late 87 or early 88, and we played this. I mean, these guys, man, they treated us great, man. They took us to do a radio interview, and then we went to this television station, which was like for this channel called ECO Echo. I don't know what, you know, but they said it's kind of big over here. It's like, you know, what would be HBO or something to you guys. You're going to be on this talk show, right? And so we're like, what? Yeah, that's kind of weird, but okay. And then, well, you're going to do 2 songs. And we're like, what? And we thought they meant like, well, we're going to stand there with the instruments and they're going to play the music, and we act like, they said, no, it's going to be live. And then of course everybody starts freaking out. Dave's like, well, what kind of amp do they have? And this and that. Like, you know, these guys want all the technical stuff. And it was, we played 2 or 3 songs on this show, and it was just crazy. And then finally, that was like the first day or 2. And then when the show comes, man, we're playing this, like a wrestling arena, man, like 3,000 people there, sold out, crazy. And, man, it was just like looking out there. The first show was in the daytime. It was like a matinee show, and then the next, but like looking out there for all those people and then thinking, man, they're here for us. I'm not even sure if Signs of Life, it may not have even come out yet. So really, we're just still a demo band, because not many people had that first album. And we're like playing in front of 3,000 crazy Mexican kids. And it was just like, and man, I was just like blown away. And, you know, and then they kept, and they're getting all drunk. And by the end of it, they wouldn't let them bring beer in, right? So they would bring it in these plastic bags. And these guys would like, they would cut the bottom off the bag and just like that, like they go gallon bags, and everybody's drunk. And when we leave the stage and they're like, they want more, you know. We come back, and then we did 1 or 2 songs, and then it's always so funny. We remember, because like we do 2 songs and then that's it, and then the guy's like, man, they still want. I'm like, nah, just that's it, you know. And then so they started chanting culero, culero. We wouldn't come back out. It was hilarious, man.
Oh, that's a great story, man. I love that. Man.
Yeah, that was a little intimidating, but still, you know, we just did it, you know. I mean, what are you gonna do, you know?
And Dave, real quick, hey, I need what kind of amp I'm playing out of? If we're gonna be playing live, I want to make sure I got. I'm gonna sound good.
I'm worried about the technical stuff. Yeah, Rinky drum set. Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh, I'm gonna pop right back into the chat room too, because I saw our friend Dave Brinkman pop in here and give us a thumbs up. What's up, Dave from Anchor Watt? And also, my friend Jeff De Leon jumping in here. He says, no more Universal Machine. Something may still come up later with me and Henry and other new members. Same songs, but different name. So cool. Thanks for the update, Jeff. Hell yeah. And another friend of ours, Ricky De Leon, playing COD while watching the stream. Loving it. Cheers. And Cat House Raphael Dafila's in the house. Devastation needs a star at the Surf Club. Yes, without a doubt. I am behind that 1,000%. Yes, brother. I love that, Ralph. That's what we need. Exactly. Shout out to Tommy Guns and also my friend Alec. Tommy Guns from Acid Wizard in the house. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. And you guys, we got about 20 people watching the show right now. Post a comment to say hi. All right. If you got anything for us, let us know. But let me know who's out there watching. All right. So moving on, when you were recording Idolatry over at Morty Sound Studios, you worked with the legendary Scott Burns. Tell me about what that experience was like in the studio, vocal tracking with Scott.
Man, that's that was a weird time, man. I don't remember a lot of like the super detailed stuff, but I remember it was like, very intimidating, working with a guy who's like a professional, like he's, because in the first album we did at Country Music Studio, Jeff, I think his name was not Jeff, but Gary Beck Studio.
Gary Beck, okay.
And then in the second one in Dallas with Kerry Crafton, who he had done some heavy stuff. He had done I can't even remember now, but maybe Rigor Mortis album came out after that, I think. I don't know, but he had done a lot of heavy stuff, so he knew what was up. And but man, Scott Burns, he's done everything, so it was like he was at times pushing us, and anyone who's a good producer like that, I mean, he's going to tell you flat out when it sucks, and he told me a couple times, man, the vocals, I know you can do better. Go back in there. And a couple times, he told Dave, like, that solo, is that really what you want to have on this record for the rest of your life? Try it again, So, like, he really pushed this, and like I say, that's where, like, boom, Henry shined, I don't know that Henry had any faults or things that need to be, because, man, he was writing the killer solos and had the rhythm crunch going. But it was intimidating, and it was pushing us, because, we had not done a whole lot of stuff with professional people before, and it really pushed us. But I mean, I like the result. It's I'll never brag or anything on myself, but man, I mean, that album for metal at the time, that was a great album, man. And if it wasn't 1991 and Combat wasn't going under, man, who knows what could have happened for us. It could have been huge things, but or at least we could have kept going, But man, that is a good album. The songwriting is good. The playing is good. It's heavy as shit. It's just it's a good album, man. I have to say, I would rate it pretty high.
When I'm recording vocals, I've been working with Robert Beltran out of Precision Studios, and he's done like Shattered Sun and other bands out there. I appreciate when he tells me, you can do better than that. Come on, give me another take. All right, we're not going to be doing this shit all day. Give me something good that you're going to be proud of. And that's what I like that you kind of mentioned about Scott. Is that going to be something you're going to be, that you want to leave on that album, that you want to leave for the, for the rest of your life? Yeah. And that's a good way of putting things, because that is your market time. That's a blueprint of where Devil was at that time. The musicianship, all the chemistry, and it was a perfect storm. And that's how I kind of wondered, how Scott was, because I kind of heard some stuff from Dave, as Dave, he was, from what I heard from Dave was that he was really pleased with Dave's drumming.
Dave, he liked it, man. Dave tore it up on that album. I mean, that drumming is flawless, man. He did a great job. I mean, 10 out of 10, props to him as well. Like I said, the band changed styles when Henry joined, but Dave laid down some badass drumming, man. There's no doubt about it. People to the day still love the drumming on that album. Yes,
it's the kind of album that you play it. Here we are, 35-year anniversary, 35 years later, and it hangs with anything out there. It fucking hangs. The guitar, the vocals, everything from top to bottom. But at that time, you had Igor doing his shit, and we'd already heard Beneath the Remains. And so we heard those kind of double bass kick feels going in, and I was a huge fan of that, of what they were bringing to the table, and how they were kind of changing the thrash feel. And hanging out with Dave here in town, man, he worked his ass off to get that fucking album right. And he really challenged himself. He really tried to write the best kind of drum work for that. And so I can't say enough. Big props to my bro, David Lozano, for making it happen on that album, because he just came in for the kill. 10 out of 10.
Yep.
Also, I wanted to also mention, was there any bands that were in there maybe before or right after the same time you were there that you might have crossed paths with, like maybe Sepultura, because I know they had Arise coming out?
Yeah, it's
Did you meet some other cats hanging out there?
No, not at the time, but at the same time we were recording was this band called Steinhardt and Moon, and it turned out to be Robbie Steinhardt, who was the violin player from Kansas, and he had got this singer named something Moon, and they were doing an album in there. And it's funny because they have a song they did called Window Shopping, and me and Henry like do some guest backup vocals on that song. And I've never heard it to this day.
Whoa!
But, they called us. They go, "Hey, does anyone want to do backup vocals?" And me and Henry said, "Yeah, why not?" And we went in there, and they were, it's just a pop AOR song, and they're singing blah blah blah, and then it's just group vocals in the back. Window shopping, that's what we say, and it's that was cool, to meet the violin player from Kansas or whatever, but. It's weird that you say that, because last year, or no, not last year, sorry. Oh, no, it was 1 or 2 years ago when I was in Europe. I went to see a friend of mine's band, Cyclone, this thrash band from Belgium. They're a great band.
They're bad.
And their sound man was this guy named Martin, who was the current guitar player for Destruction. Well, as it turns out, me and my buddy who lives in Holland, we had to take him home that night because his girlfriend lived I don't know, on the way back to Henry's house. So he was in the car, and it came up about Devastation. So he started asking, he goes, I didn't know, but he's an engineer, and he produces albums and stuff. And he was like, "Dude, I got to tell you, your Idolatry sounds so much like Arise, the production." And he goes, "I had to go back and look it up, and you guys," and they were in there within a month of each other, like the same time period. He goes, "The guitar tone, the drumming, it sounds so much like Arise." And I'm like, "Oh, really? I never really noticed that." I mean, I bought Arise when it came out, but it wasn't my, I like Schizophrenia, Beneath the Remains. Those are my two favorites of theirs. And I do still like Arise, but I didn't just listen to it as much. But then when I go back now and listen, I was like, well, it does have a little bit of that Idolatry, or, I don't know if they recorded theirs first and then us, or us and then them, but Scott definitely had some of the same techniques going on, because there was definitely some similarities there, and they were recorded right back to back. So that's kind of weird. But no, they were already gone by the time we got there, or if they were after us, they hadn't got there yet. But we did get to hang out. We have some friends out there. Like, we hung out with the guys from Death for a while, and went to a couple shows and stuff. We had a good time out there. We were there for almost a month. It was fun.
Hell yeah! Oh, great experience. I know it was. Well, thinking about you getting signed to major label with Combat Records, did they have any? Did you ever have a conversation between you and them saying, "Hey, that was too hard. Do we need to soften this album out? Do we need to soften your sound?"
No.
Did they have any involvement?
At that time, I mean, to people like us, they're but they're not really a major label. They were still underground per se, but they just sent the money and said, "Give us the album."
Yes.
And I don't know, we did have a run-in with them at one point, but it, and that's my fault. Looking back, I look back now, and when you're like 19, 20, you're kind of stupid. You don't really know. And I remember it was the summer of '91, and which would end up being the end of the band. This was our last tour, so we had done all these good tours, opening for Dark Angel, Death, Sepultura, yada yada. And here comes '91, right? Boom, April, Idolatry's release. We're like, oh hell yeah, we're ready to go. Let's get on a good tour and play this great music for some people. And because our label never supported us very much at all. All of our support came from our booking agent, this guy Mitch Carduna. He was out of New York. He got us on all the great tours. The label didn't really have a lot to do with that. So I remember when Idolatry came out, And so Mitch started offering us to other bands. I remember like one he said was Overkill, and they're like, nah, we don't want this Devastation band going out with us, and a little bit too heavy or whatever. And then another band, no. And if you remember, like 91 was also time metal was kind of dying and grunge was coming in with Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all this. So metal tours weren't as big and weren't as happening as previous couple of years.
That's right.
So there was just nothing there, right? So Mitch finally said, hey, you guys want to go out and headline? And we're like, whoa, man, no way. We're not ready for that yet. We prefer opening for someone because it's a better time slot and it's better for us. And he's like, well, there's just nothing. I can't find anything. So he put together a package of us headlining with Malevolent Creation and Demolition Hammer, which if you look at that now, what a bill, you know, like
fuck man,
kids today would love to see that.
Brutality.
But back then that was a second tier, third tier bill or whatever, you know, because, you know, we were in no ready to headline. But so we say, well, if that's all it can do it. But I said, if we're in charge, then we want to play every place possible. I want you to book every city, every state. So this tour ended up being like 72 shows in 76 days. Like there was only 2 or 3 days off. It was a massive tour. We played everywhere, and it went down, and it was great. You know, it was great.
Yes.
I kind of got off track. I forgot where I was going with this story, but it was something about with the touring or whatever. Now I can't remember what your question was, but that ended up being the last tour that we did. We played Joe's Garage in August of 91, and it was the last Devastation show. I mean, I know you saw the reunion show, but as far as what I call the real Devastation, you know, I don't count the reunion thing. That was a mess, and it turned out to be horrible and even messier from when you saw it. But I, you know, and it's so weird because when people ask us like, well, what happened and how did you break up and this and that, and like, it's so weird because there's no answer. There's like, we played that show at Joe's Garage. The tour was over. I remember Dave Burke's girlfriend had driven up, so he rode home with her.
Yeah.
I think me and Henry and Ed might have rode together, and Louis, who was now back in the band, I don't know. We just kind of all went our separate ways, and then when we got back, like no one called each other. Like we didn't practice. We didn't. It was just kind of like, we just kind of sat there. Oh, yeah, that's right. I had already moved to San Antonio by that time. So I was married, living in San Antonio. And that's right. I think Dave had already moved to San Antonio too. But then about a month later, Combat calls us with this tour for Europe with, I want to say like Massacre and Grave or something like that. And we're like, oh, when? December, yada, yada. And then they're like, oh, now I know where I was going with that story. Live, I was saying, because Combat wasn't giving us any tour support, right? Like back then, labels, when you go on tour, labels would give you like $5 or $10,000 up front to buy equipment or get a vehicle or do whatever you need to do. Don't get me wrong, like you're paying for it. It's not free money.
Right.
Coming
you
out
pay
of
it
record
back.
sales, but they give you that money and they call it tour support. Well, they didn't give us any tour support, and we're like, man, what the hell? And at the first show, you know, Malevolent Creation drives up in a cool van, and Demolition Hammer has a big old RV, and like we're just still cruising in Dave's old red Chevy van, you know. And so we were like pissed, like we're the headliners that helped us. So like halfway through the tour, you know, I started saying like F Combat, you know, like live.
Oh,
you know?
shit.
And word had gotten back to them, and back then no cell phones, right? So once a week, Dave would call Combat to see how the record's selling and stuff like that. And I still have this on video. So we used to video a lot of stuff. And someday we wanted to release a DVD of all the kind of a little bit of footage, but some behind the scenes stuff too. And I still have this on video. Like we're all it's a hot summer day. We're laying in the van. No one has a shirt on or anything. And Dave Burke walks back up to the van and like, oh, I just got off the phone with Jim Welch. They're pretty pissed. And I'm like, oh, what's up? He goes, oh, we hear y'all been saying fuck Combat on stage and this and that. And I'm like, oh, yikes, you know, and yeah, we have. And he goes, well, that's not cool and this and that. And, you know, so, yeah, I was, like I said, young and dumb, you know, what are you going to, it was just kind of pissing us off that they didn't support us at all when Road Racer was supporting and Century Media was supporting and all these other. So then, once they set up that European tour, well, then they send us a call a couple weeks later. Yeah. We again, we're not going to give you tour support, so you got to find your own way to Europe. Well, this turned out to be a big deal because uh, me and Edward were like the only two who had real jobs, right? The other guys just played in the band, and so we're like, okay, we'll buy our tickets, whatever. And then, but Dave Burke and Henry were strongly against that. Dave also too had been playing guitar now, you know, maybe 10 years. And he's like, look, I'm to the point, this has got to pay for itself. I can't be dishing out money. So he was strongly against it. And of course, him and Henry were a team back then, you know, so he talked Henry into it. So like those two are no, me and Ed were yes. Well, the drummer was Louie, and we're like, dude, side with us so we can win this. And they were like, no, we shouldn't have to pay whatever. And I'm like, look, man, we'll take shirts, we'll make it back on the merchandise. It's just like we're advancing ourselves the money, but we will make it back. Well, obviously the no's won because we didn't go. And man, to this day, that was like, I think we did a lot of cool stuff and but that was the worst decision I think we ever made, because right after that, it turned December of that year, and then Combat sends us a letter. They're dropping us. They're phasing out their metal division. Damn. They're going in a different direction, and I just know, like, if we would have played Europe, because like we prided ourselves in being a good live band, you know, like we put a lot into it, and you know, we were playing. Not to take anything away with any bands we played with, I won't mention, but like, man, we're just tearing it up live and thrashing, going crazy. And there's bands that were just standing there, like they wouldn't move. They wouldn't move 2 feet right or left, you know. And we were just destroying it live. And everyone who you know, they may or may not like the band, but everyone after they saw us live would say, "God dang, you guys are good live," you know. And we know if we would have went over there and played Europe, I mean, it probably would have opened a door to, at least to one of these other, you know, European labels that, you know, might have said, oh, hey, you know, we'll take you on if Combat's done. But we didn't go. And after that show in August at Joe's Garage in Dallas, the 5 of us were never in the same room again, ever. And it wasn't planned. It wasn't premeditated. We just were never together again. And it evaporated. And so many times through the years, people would say, how come you guys never got back together? And how come this and how come that? And look at Hell's Heroes, you know, all these old bands are getting back together. And I'm like, I mean, to me, man, you got to be like, you know, like someone like you. I can see you and you're into it, and I see your enthusiasm, and like, I don't have that. And I couldn't get up there and fake something. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm not that time, man, from like 82, 83 to 86, 87, that's a special time for me, man. Those memories and the music. I mean, I remember to this day, the first time I put Kill 'Em All on the turntable, my whole world changed, you know? Yeah. And that time, you cannot replicate that. You know, you can't go backwards with time. You can't, you know, like turn back the clock, you know?
Yes.
I mean, these things you just can't do. And I still go around the concerts. I love music. I love live music. I love traveling to see bands. And I love seeing some of these bands that reunite. But if I'm 100% honest, 8 out of 10 of them, they're not good. They're not what they used to be. They look like they don't need to be doing it. Sometimes it's so bad, I feel sorry for them on stage. And I'm like, I'm not going to put myself through that, you know? Who knows? Maybe we could do something and be good. But now with Dave gone, nah, there's no way, you know? And that's another thing. Like, to me, I freak out these days how it's such a business. Like, it was never like that with us. We were like a team. You know what? We were solid. Like, you know, when I see like Charlie Benante say, "Oh, I'm not playing with Anthrax tonight because I got a Pantera gig or whatever," like, what? Anthrax without Charlie? Well, that's Anthrax. Like, in my eyes, that's not really Anthrax, man. Because, you know, like, I know every band can't have the original members, but when you just come out with, you know, 3 or 4 hard guns, I mean, what is it? Of course, the fans, you know, they want to hear the songs. You know, those songs are stuff they cherish, and a lot of young kids never got to see Pantera, and I would never knock that Pantera thing they're doing. If they want to do it, hey, if somebody was writing us big checks, who knows, we'd probably throw something together too, you know? Like,
right.
But the thing is, you know, you got to be like just true and honest, man. And I mean, it doesn't feel it was too special what we had. I'll just leave it at that. And I know we're never going to capture that again. And I mean, like, Henry would probably love to do it. He's got that Beyond the Blood going back again, and I like to go see him play and stuff. He's still great. But man, it wouldn't be Devastation. It would be like that reunion thing, and that's like fake and that's phony, and I can't do that. I mean,
Yeah.
I tell people, man, one of the biggest things in life, if you can ever learn, is just learn from your mistakes. And if you can go through life and don't make the same mistake twice, then you're winning, man. You're winning.
Yeah.
And too many people, they do the same thing over and over, and then they're wondering why their lives
nothing changes
where they are, man. Why is my life not getting better? Why? Because you're making the same decisions that you made 3 or 4 bad ones in a row, but you're still making. You know what I mean? You have to learn from your mistakes, and I just like that reunion didn't go well, so I would never do that again. It just wouldn't, and there are people who would probably love to see the band play, a lot of young kids, and they still, yes. I see people at Hell's Heroes and they're like, man, if you guys ever played, I'd be in this and that. I'm like, that's good. I can't go through all that just so you could see it live, because
right.
It wouldn't be the same anyway. And you
yes.
may like it, but it wouldn't be the same. And I would know it's not the same. So that's where it is.
I have a lot of respect from where you're coming with that, because there's so many musicians that will do it just for the sake of the money. And it's a magical thing that you guys had right then. And with Dave not being a part of it, it's not going to feel right. It's not going to feel right. And I know where you're coming from, because with my band Kill 'Em More, we had that going on for 14, 15 years. And wow. I tried to bring it back about 2 years ago with our guitar player, and I got our blessing from Fidel. Fidel hurt his back in an accident, but he said, you know what? Really? Yeah. And so he gave me his blessing. I found a drummer, but my guitar player, Izzy, the main writer for Kill 'Em More, said, I can't do it, bro. I don't have the same feeling. And really? It's not here, and I'm not going to try, and I can't be true to this if it's not feeling right.
That's honesty, man. That's honesty. I mean, what people don't realize too, like Devastation, that whole thing happened between 1985 and 1991. So like 6 years. It was like just boom, and it was done, and it was over. Like you had Kill 'Em More 14. That's 2.5 times longer than we were ever even existed. It was just a short time. It was a short magical time, and that's all it was. And it can't be like you can't capture that again, and you can't.
Right.
You can't make it happen again. And if you there's nothing worse than fans seeing people who are just going through the motions up there. They can knock that off right away. That's not going to impress anybody. And it's I don't know, but yeah, I definitely like what your friend Izzy said. That's how I feel, man. I just I can't get into it. I mean, still love the music, still love to go to shows, but just can't be on that side of it.
Right. I'm going to give a shout out to some other guys that have joined us. Rob Hinojosa, thanks for watching today. Rolando Flores, what's up? Also, Fern the Burn, guitar player for us in Annihilator, and also plays for a Killswitch Engage cover, Number Days, a Killswitch Engage tribute down in the valley. Thank you for checking it out tonight, Fernie. What I want to get to next, I want to make sure that we cover the deep catalog that you've got, man. Taking it back from 1986, we got Violent Termination dropping. You got some demos. Contaminated was part of that. And then Signs of Life comes out. Signs of Life, that one right there really started. You could tell the band was getting real serious, and things are going on the upward trajectory. And then before you know it, it's 1991, June 1st. Idolatry gets let out. We're this is already being 35 years. How does it feel to have something special like that under your belt and still being, cherished and loved 35 years later? Did you ever think that it was going to make this kind of impact when you're, getting it done?
Nah, if I'm being 100% honest to you, it's very weird, because I'll be honest, man, when you even asked me to do this interview, and then I saw you post a couple of things about it, when you put Rodney from Devastation, that hit me just in a weird way. I was like, man, I haven't been Rodney from Devastation since 1991. Like people,
and
they know me from my business. Like all my customers know me. We'll go do events together, whatever. Or, you know, there's people who know me as, oh, that's Allison and Justin's dad. Or there's people that's like, oh, that's Aldo's Opa, you know. And a lot of people know me as like, I was doing Midnight tour managing and merchandise for like 7 years. I was helping Midnight longer than Devastation was even a band, you know. That's crazy, you know. So there's a lot of people who know me that from the Midnight thing. And like all these different places people know me from. And then when I read that, I was like, damn, that's another reason why it's so hard, is because like it's hard to connect with that, you know what I mean? Because I tell you, you know, you were there back then, you know how special that time was. It wasn't, it was bigger than the music, you know what I mean? It was a lifestyle, you know, you lived that way. Like, you know, walking around Sunrise Mall on a Saturday, like if you saw another dude, like if you saw a dude with a Motorhead shirt, what? Holy shit! You're gonna walk up and talk to this guy, because nobody knew who Motorhead was in 1985. You know, of course, I'm exaggerating. There was people, but not in Corpus Christi. You know, and not underground. You know, it just it was just. I mean, it was a lifestyle, man. I mean, I remember having bands, Acridity, and bands we would play with, Dead Horse. They would stay in my apartment, and we would party all night and do crazy stuff. And it was just like, you know, it was. The music was the main thing, but it was more than that. It was a scene. It was a feeling. It was, you know, going to the record store and, you know, like picking up an album, looking at the cover and like, oh my God, you know, this is going to be great. You can just tell by the cover, you know, and there was no computers and listening to stuff online. And there was a thrill and an excitement to it that it's just irreplaceable, man. And now I see today, every band who puts out a record, you know, if I look or read a review online, it's like politics. Half the people hate it, half the people like it. Oh, Judas Priest, why did they change? Blah, blah, blah. This guy will never be Glenn Tipton. And, you know, or then there's other people who like, you know, and, oh, man, I mean, I respect you guys who are in bands today, because, man, to have to listen to that kind of crap, like, I'm like, there's be like no way, man. It's just like it's just too much. It was just a little too special for me back then to. I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's so weird today. It's so weird today. Technology, the way it's, you know, and now with this AI, you have AI bands making music, you know, and that should be the death of everything. I mean, if computers are making music, God forbid, you know, we're doomed, man. That's insane. Right.
Shit. Fucking Skynet, right? Writing songs now and shit.
I didn't mean to get off on a tangent, man. I just
No, hey, I don't like AI. I've seen too many movies. They've shown us what the fuck is gonna happen, but we still keep going down that road without anybody putting the fucking brakes on. You know, and that's for a different podcast. But you know, we've seen all this shit, and it's incredible how things are continuing to go this way. But I'm thinking back in the early days, was there any maybe venues or maybe record stores that did Devastation right by promoting you guys? Anybody stand out like the Hog Wild or maybe Splatterfest over here?
Yeah, Hog Wild was great. I thought you meant in Corpus Christi. Hog Wild, hands down, you know, the best store Texas has ever had. I used to, you know, we took the demos in there before the album came out, and they would sell the demos. Then we took the first album there, and Ruben Luna, who was the metal guy there, he used to write for Aardschok America, and he always had a Texas scene, and he would mention us in the Texas scene, and so Hog Wild really hooked us up, treated us right, and I remember in Corpus, you know, Craig's was always cool. They would let us sell the records there, and I don't think Record Bar, those other corporate ones were a little too stiffy, you know. But there was a lady, man, in '86. I want to say she was an older lady. Like I can't even imagine now. If I was 19, she probably was only 30, but I looked like she was 50 or 60.
Yeah,
but. She opened the store on Everhart called Metal Mania, man, and it was very small and very, you know, select stuff. But yeah, we sold our demos in there, man, and she was super cool. And I mean, of course, it didn't last very long because she had no idea what she was doing. But it was cool while it lasted, man. I mean, to walk in a store and see Megadeth posters and stuff, like,
Yeah.
not something normal, and a great name, Metal Mania. Wow, it was cool. But yeah, Hogwall by far was the biggest that helped us. There was a couple in Austin. I think Waterloo let us sell some stuff there, and maybe something else. But yeah, Hogwall hands down is the king of the underground for Texas.
They always kick ass. That's where I always like to stop in and grab a T-shirt whenever I'm in San Antonio. Just go. They always got the best shit. And underground, national, great new and used vinyls, all that good stuff. Cheers to Hogwall. Keep it going. I wanted to ask, what was your first concert that you went to, Rodney?
First concert for me was Triumph with Legs Diamond and the Coliseum in 1979. My dad took me. I was like 10. I guess. What
album was that for Triumph?
Just a Game.
Oh, Just a Game.
Yeah.
Yes.
To bug my dad, of course. I love him. Rest in peace. But man, he's the one that got me into music. It bought me my first Kiss record, and after that, I really don't think he knew what he was doing, man. I mean, we laughed about it later, and I would tell him like, you bought me that first album, and it just opened everything for me. And I would bug him, and finally, at that time, he said, "Okay, I'll take you to this concert," and man, what a way to start! Triumph and Legs Diamond.
Yes.
And at that point in time, oh man, you talk about magic, man. You can't even. But yes, believe it or not, right after that, I talked to my mom because they were divorced and they lived, separate places. And then I talked my mom into taking me to see Ted Nugent, and that was another experience too. I love Ted Nugent. Still to this day, love Ted Nugent. One of my all-time favorites, and that was. She took me, and that was hilarious because back then the way he used to rap and
that's right, the Motor City Madman.
Yeah,
he was tight. Oh, he's one of the best.
Yeah,
I love that, and I love Triumph, man. And I knew you were a Triumph fan. I don't know because I know you love a lot of the stuff that was coming up in those early years. Whether it's Diamond Head, other bands for the new wave of British heavy metal that were coming across, like Motorhead and stuff. The harder the better, and I knew you were into that kind of stuff. But Triumph, seeing Rick Emmett was in San Antonio. Did you go see? You were were you there? Did you make it?
Yeah.
Were you back?
We had just got back. We got back on Monday and they played Thursday. Yeah, we saw it. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I've seen some video footage. Love me, Rick Emmett, man. Wow.
Yeah, he's amazing, man. He's one of the Triumph's one of the best. By being my first concert, they'll always hold a special place.
Yeah,
but they're a great band, man. There's just a phenomenal band.
What album from Kiss did your dad buy you?
He bought me Kiss Alive, and it's a
shit.
It's a whole other story with that. I think I said it on somebody's podcast, but I'll just give you the brief version. My parents were divorced, right? My dad would get me on the weekends, and he was a great dad, man. He was always there every weekend. You always hear these sad stories of these dads who don't see their kids, they're not around, or
they bail out.
Parents get divorced, the dad's gone, and they're whatever. But my dad was there every weekend for me, every weekend. And so he picked me up one weekend and we went back. I lived in Rockport with my mom. So we went back to Corpus where he had a little apartment, and we're there. And he went to this music store. It was called Music Plus on Staples, right at the corner of Staples and Alameda. And we were looking around, and right when we walk in, he's probably looking for the latest Pablo Cruz or whatever's out at the time. And man, there's a store display for Kiss Alive right in the front.
Whoa,
and I'm there like
display. Now
at this time I'm like 7, and I'm just there like, my jaw's dropped. I'm like looking at this and like, whoa, man. I'm like in a daze. I'm just staring right at it for 10 minutes probably. So anyway, I get the album, I walk over to my dad and I go, man, Dad, can you give me this? And he's like, he looks at it, right? And he's like, oh, there's no way I'm buying you that. This is that long-haired satanic acid rock music. Look at these hippies and blah, 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 blah. Goes on and put that back, So then we're driving back to Rockport. He's taking me back home. And the whole time he's like, I can't even believe you wanted that thing. How could you? That's just the ugliest and most horrible, blah, blah. So, I mean, he's really insinuating how bad that stuff is, and I should never listen to it.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks go by, he picks me up again. We go back to his apartment, right? Well, we walk in, and I go to my room, and man, that Kiss Alive is sitting right on my bed, right on the pillow. And I'm like,
yes,
he had got it for me, man. I was, went straight to the stereo. And of course he's like, no, you put those headphones on. I'm not listening to that. So I put the headphones on. I just over and over and over and over. And man, I knew every second of that song, every note, every Paul Stanley rap, and that started it, man. That just opened it up for me. And then after that, it was, always the next thing. And when I lived in Rockport, I was, same thing, 8 or 9, and I would be out in front playing basketball. I had a little hoop in my driveway, and my neighbor was this older kid, older than me. He was probably a high school senior, and I'm like 8 or 9. But his window was right next to our driveway, so he would sit in his room and smoke pot, and he's listening to like Moxie and Legs Diamond and Frank Marino, and I'm like, I keep hearing this stuff come out, and I'm like, man, this is as good as Kiss, and some of it's even better. And so I would always walk to his window and like, who's that? And he's like, oh, this is Moxie. You never heard of him. Get out of here. I'm like, well, I like that, man. I like that. And so this guy opened me up to like, man, Frank Marino. I remember he played World Anthem on and on and on. And that grew to be such a monumental album for me from my youth because of just hearing my neighbor play it so often, and like yesterday and today, like Y&T before they were Y&T, he played all this stuff, and I've always just been drawn to this. So of course, then when I discovered Judas Priest, so like you said earlier, you start reaching for the next heaviest thing. From Judas Priest, it went to like, holy shit, that first Iron Maiden crushes British Steel. I gotta hear that, and then, oh, this is Angel Witch. Oh my God, and then Holocaust, Witchfinder General, and then all of a sudden, 83, the dam bust open with Kill 'Em All, and then and then all bets are off, all bets are off. Progressing, and I went right along with it. Slayer, me and my friends, we just laughed because like Slayer ruined so many bands for us because like in 80 from 86 to 88, 89, I would buy Death, Leprosy, and I would buy the next thing. I would buy Creator. I would buy Sodom, and but you always end up comparing it to Slayer, and it doesn't hold a candle, man. I mean, it doesn't, Sodom's great. Love most of their albums, but it's not Slayer, man. I mean, it just, Slayer just ruined it for so many bands. Of course, I was narrow-minded back then too. Now I go back and listen to a lot of these albums, and I'm like, oh man, this Artillery smokes.
Artillery,
why did I keep putting it aside? So that's what it is. But it was always a quest up until about 89 or 90. There was just a quest, and I think I tap out around like that. I took some death metal, like. Of course, I consider the first Possessed death metal, but some of these, younger guys may not. But I do too. Pestilence, the Consuming Impulse, I love that.
Oh, I love that. That's such a badass album.
Entombed, those kind of. That's about where I tap out. Once it just got super brutal with the Cannibal Corpse, where I can't understand too much of it, and it's a billion miles an hour. I'm just like, okay, I'm out. I'll go back and listen to Thin Lizzy now. I'm good.
Yeah. Let's talk about 1991 again. So Idolatry's coming out, but that was such a great year for fucking thrash metal. You had Dark Angel release Their Time Does Not Heal. That came out, and I think that was like in February, so that was a little early before y'all's. Overkill's Horoscope came out later than September. We talked about Arise coming out. That came out like in March, give or take around there. Sacred Reich's American Way. That was a good one. Then that came out late 90, but it started to peak in 91. Death, fucking Human was a 91 right there as well. Blessed Are the Sick from Morbid Angel. Just a landmark year for thrash metal and death metal bands coming up.
What a bunch of great albums, man.
Yes, man. And you being in the mix of all that, it's just like, man, talk about being in great company with, all those heavy hitters. So we're kind of getting to the end here. But before we get to the end, I want to say, Dave, end of Summer Slam session, I want to talk about that. Let's talk about some of the shows, man. You mentioned you did the headlining shows with Malevolent Creation and Demolition Hammer, and I don't know where Zeros fell in that lineup. Maybe it was the first one, maybe it was the second gig, but that fucking place was balls to the wall, packed. Man, that was one of my favorite shows. They were so fucking hot, thrashing. I remember a pit started, and I don't know what the fuck happened, but somebody broke a bottle over Mark's head. It was fucking radical that night, dude. It was something else.
That was a crazy show. I remember after that, because Dave Burke used to go to Zeros all the time, and him and Mark were real good friends. And
hell yeah.
I remember Dave used to tell me, like, Mark always would talk about that show. He's like, that was the most packed that
fuck yes
Zeros ever was. Or I don't know. Maybe I think later he had some Static X or something, but I don't know. But at the time, that was like the biggest show ever.
Yeah.
It was insane, man. It was like, I remember it was right after we came back from Mexico and did I think Austin was the first US date, but Corpus was like the second or third. And yeah, Zeros was insane, man. It was, I wish we would have videoed that show. I really do. I don't have it's stuff, like I say, stuff was a blur back at that time, but I do remember that show being total insanity, man. Like,
yes. Oh, it was incredible. And you know, I want to give a shout out to all those SummerSlam sessions that we were talking about earlier with Rotting Corpse, Walt, still alive and kicking up in Austin, getting back together. I think maybe they've done some shows within the past year. Walt's still staying busy, keeping Rotting Corpse alive. And I picked up one of their vinyls they put out maybe a couple years ago with a lot of the demos re-recorded. Those end of SummerSlam sessions were legendary. They were, you know, we would have shows, but when it came to that, like, there would be so many kids that would come out. And I thought I was in tune with the scene, but there were so many little cliques in Corpus. There was the West Sider cliques. There was like groups from Moody, from Miller, from King, from all the high schools. Everybody had their own represented, but not everybody knew each other. And it wasn't a big city. But when you got there, everybody kind of mixed. And we all got along for the most part. But Corpus has always been notorious for having like a chip on the shoulder. When like Slayer plays, there's gonna be a fucking fight. When like you get like Fearless Iranians from Hell bringing their group with you over here to mix in with an Anchor Wat crowd with a bunch, you know, the Anchor Wat crowd is gonna be a lot of, you know, Hispanics over here, and you get an SA Skins, that ain't gonna go well. So you got some crazy shit going on at the Elks Lodge and, you know, different places and stuff like that. But you know, these shows that we had back in the day, you know, with you, I'm so glad I was there for that first one with you guys and Hellstar and Devastation. Did you get to meet the guys from Anthrax that night?
Oh yeah, we talked to them and hung out a little bit and met Hellstar. Yeah, they were super cool. Yeah. I forget. I remember I was talking to Charlie Benante back there right before I think they were playing our intro tape. We were about to walk on, and I was like, man, I'm so nervous. And he's like, oh, really? Why? And I go, this is our first show. And he goes, first show here at the Ritz? And I'm like, no, first show ever. He's like, what? And I go, yeah, we've never been on stage before. We just wrote these 5 songs in the past couple of months, and we've never been on stage. And I think Dave Burke was the only one who had been on stage. Maybe Jesse. I'm not sure. Jesse was in a lot of bands, but I'm not sure. You know, definitely nothing to that extent. But yeah, man. I mean, you know, he was like freaking out, and I remember talking to him, and then I'll never forget when we played with, you mentioned the show earlier with Celtic Frost and Exodus back there. Martin Ain told me. Yeah,
the bassist.
Yeah, he's like, Devastation. Are you the one with the Violent Termination album? I said, yeah. He goes, yes. I have that album. It's quite average. And I started laughing. Like, wow, man, that's killer. That, you know, he's so honest. Like, it's a quite average album.
Yeah. I love that. Hell yeah. And so you even shared the stage with King Diamond in the Valley in San Antonio on that Fatal Portrait. Golly, I wish we could have got that show here in Corpus. But, you know,
it was.
We had to go to San Antonio to get most of the better shows back in the day.
Yeah, back then, stuff like that. I don't know how good that would have done here. I mean, we did get some. I remember seeing Motorhead at the Ritz and
with Cro-Mags. Yeah, that was a game changer for a lot of the hardcore guys around here, because that kind of got a lot of that got bands wanting to go that way, and that with that kind of feel. Is there another band here, like as Deva was growing and moving and staying on the road? Was there another band that you thought was kind of holding the metal flag for Corpus after Deva moved on, that you kind of want to throw some props to?
During the time when we were, I didn't pay a lot of attention to the scene while we were touring and stuff like that. Of course, I knew Annihilator was kicking ass. I knew Final Assault was still trying to hang on in the later 80s, but I don't think, they did have an EP come out on Azra, but I think they were kind of like, I know Dave left, and I think maybe even Ruben left at the time, or Izzy, I don't know, but they were still kicking. Of course, Angkor Wat was man, they blew up from the beginning, man. After that first show we played with them, and I always tell people, like, man, it's like so many of the metal people were like metal, and then as soon as Angkor Wat came out, they're over here hardcore. Like I would see some kid with a Possessed jacket and long hair, and then 3 months later at the Angkor Wat show, he's got a mohawk and he's got a Discharge shirt, and I'm like, he's totally changed his persona. And that's just because Angkor Wat was so damn good, man. That's just, those guys were, when I first heard that demo tape, that first one, the demonstration under duress. Yeah, that, holy shit, man. That is, there's very few bands, man, that get what I would call the perfect metal meets hardcore. Cro-Mags maybe the best, Discharge. But god dang, that Angkor Wat was right there with him, man. That, me and Ruben still talk about that demo to this day. Ruben Luna from Hogwild, when we get together, man, he's like, oh, cool. That demo, man, that thing was so heavy, man. So heavy. Yes. What a great job they did. And the album too. The album was great too, and I don't want to sound like the old guy. I was like, oh, I like the demo better, but god dang, that demo, it just blew me away, man. It was fascinating.
I love it. Meat Eaters was on that shit. Warsaw, Died Young.
Great live band too. Those guys like toured it live, and they really did.
Both you guys. That package at the end of SummerSlam, Walt and the guys riding Corpse set the stage. A lot of thrash going on. Angkor Wat kept the energy going, and then you guys come on there, and it was just hair everywhere. Just thrashing mayhem, dude. God, it was just
shows, man.
Yeah, great insane stuff. Great shows.
Yeah.
One last question. What advice would you give a kid that wants to start a band, a thrash metal band? What would you tell him? What's the one thing about making it out of Corpus that they would need to know that no one had the chance to tell you?
Man, I wish I could give somebody good advice, but I realized that how lucky we were, and it had nothing to do with talent per se, or it was one of those right time at the right moment for us. But I would say, follow your dreams and go for what you know, but don't be stupid about it. I've seen I won't mention any names, but there's a I just saw the other day, like a GoFundMe thing for this guy who he was in a band, and he did all this and tried, and then didn't make it, and now he's asking for money for his bills and stuff because he sacrificed and put everything into it. But it's not the first goal; it's the third or fourth one, and be real with yourself. Don't ever lose your dreams. Like, follow your dreams and do what you can, but just not to the extent that you ruin your family, you ruin your friendships, you ruin the thing, because you still have to be alive, and you still have to be a person functioning. And I'm not saying it's funny because one last thing, I don't want to keep you past your time, but my mom used to always tell me, like, my mom did not like the band, right? She wasn't. I love when I hear all these kids, oh, my mom's so supportive and this and that. My mom was like, nope, you need to cut that hair. You should be an accountant. Go back to college. And I'm like, I go, Mom, you don't have to worry. I'm not. I always looked at, like, you know how when you're younger, you can't tell the age of the people older than you, right? But like, I don't know if you don't remember because you were younger, but there was a band in town called Purple Mushroom, right?
Of course, Leon, the Calderons.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Reynolds Champion, the singer, was. Oh my God, this dude was phenomenal. This dude had a voice like, man, like, you're talking about real talent. Like, this guy should have done everything Devastation did and more, because he had more talent in his pinky than I could ever have. But you know, but nothing ever happened for these guys, right? So I remember my mom would always harp on me, and you need to cut your hair, and you should be an accountant because you're so good with numbers. And I'm like, no, Mom, I'm not, I'm not into that or whatever. I go, but look, don't worry. I'm realistic. I'm not going to be one of these guys who turns 30 years old and still have long hair and trying to make it in a band. It's not I know there's a short time, there's a shelf life for it, So, so what I would tell the kid was definitely, play your instrument, practice hard, live your dreams, write some songs, try to play them in front of people. Get out all you can and try to push the doors open, because they don't always open for you, Sometimes you got to push a little hard, and to get that door, get your foot in the door, and don't be afraid to, all they can say is no, and no never hurt anybody. But follow your dreams, try as hard as you can, do what you can, but just don't sacrifice friendships and family and love and stuff like that, because those are the things that keep you real, and they keep you, that's what makes you who you are, like 40 years down the road, nobody's going to care that I played in Devastation. They're going to care about what kind of human being I am and how I treat people and those kind of things. So that's what matters, but definitely go for it. Give it a shot. Because if you don't give it a shot, you're going to always second guess yourself all throughout your life.
I love it. Awesome words of wisdom there, Rodney, from a guy that has lived it and has seen the highs and the lows from friends and from outsiders that have been a part of this thing that we love, that we'll always be a part of. Being a metalhead and being a rocker is something that I've never been ashamed of. But my parents always told me my parents told me this is just a phase you're going through. And as I'm turning my cousins on to Metallica and stuff, they're like, "Oh, don't be turning them on to that stuff." But after all these years, my dad has been to 2 shows. Well, the first show he went, it was my first show playing drums for Aggravated Assault, opening up for Annihilator at the Air Civic Center. My singer for that band, Tim Abel, we had a song called "Cops Suck." He comes out there. My dad's a retired police officer, and he goes, "This one goes out to all the Corpus Christi police. They're fucking crooked. They're corrupt. This one called Cops Suck." My dad, that was the last time I saw him at one of my shows until I put together my Christmas. I do a Christmas benefit called Tony's Twisted Christmas Spectacular. I got a 20-piece band made up of all these artists from Corpus. We're playing Christmas classics, kind of like Twisted Sister, in that 80s kind of feel.
Nice, yeah.
And so I finally had something where my folks can come out and watch, that it's not going to be too heavy for them. They can relate, and it's for a great cause. And so I'm going on my 7th year this year, and I'm working with Casey at the House of Rock to make it all happen with my band called the Harbor City All-Stars. But I'm glad that after all this time,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, that some sort of closure right there. That what?
Yeah,
I'm not. And to finish that story, my dad was the father that my parents got divorced when I was 6. So every other weekend, my dad was there for me, and he was always there. Even though he was a police officer, he was always there for me. Awesome. And after that weekend, he saw us play. He's dropping me off on Sunday. It was kind of quiet on the way home, and then he puts his hand on my leg and he goes, "I need you to quit that fucking band. I need you to quit that band." And I said, "Dad, how can I quit that band? That's my band." He goes, "I don't give a shit. You're going to quit that band. You can be in another band, but I can't believe how you humiliated me." And then, yeah. And I knew where he was coming from. And so, Dad, I told him, "Yeah, I quit the band. I will." But did I quit? Hell no, I didn't quit. Matter of fact, I kept the hard road going. I worked 2-3 jobs, Rodney, so that way I didn't have to be in the oil field, the refineries, so that way I could play. Because I wanted to make it possible, because that's what made me fucking happy. So that advice, follow your dreams, I'm with that 1,000%, man. Because when you dig this shit and you love the way it makes you feel to be jamming with friends you love, doing the same kind of stuff, it makes me feel like a kid again, even though I'm 55. So really proud of that. I'm going to jump to my last segment, but I want to give a shout out. My man, Hector Juarez, who sings for Neverland, which is a killer Metallica tribute experience, and Knife Party. And he's also a singer in my Christmas band. Thanks for watching. And then my friend Miguel Benilla chiming in from Colombia, from Cartaga, Colombia. He plays with a band called Cartel Psycho. And these guys are like join the army suicidal. Super cool guys. Great band. So, and thank you, Dave. Hell yeah. Dave said, it's not a phase. It is a life. That's right. It's a lifestyle. You better believe it. Much love to Dave. We're going to jump to Draw the Line. And we're going to talk about some of these bands real quick. I think I got like 6 bands I want to compare. And we're going to wrap this up. Okay. Let's start off with this first pair of bands. And I hope, I don't think there's a band I can mention that you haven't heard of, because you just have an ear for music, and no matter what it is, especially if they have been anywhere in the metal realm, I think you know about them. And these ones aren't too rare, but I want to start off by giving some love to our crossover originators, and just a pair. Who do you favor out of Crumbsuckers versus Cryptic Slaughter?
For me, it would probably be Crumbsuckers.
Crumbsuckers.
Yeah, just
Life of Dreams.
I saw them in some, I don't even remember where the place, but somewhere off Staples or something. Man,
the Warehouse.
Yeah. They were just intense, man. But I do like some Cryptic Slaughter too. But god dang, Crumbsuckers was just, I guess, between, if it's those two, I would have to lean a little bit toward Crumbsuckers.
I got it. Shout out to Chuck Lenahan. I had on the podcast about a month ago, who's in Europe with Carnivore AD, doing the carnivore shit. Chuck Lenahan, guitar player for Crumbsuckers. Big love. Next one. How about between Sepultura versus Soulfly?
Oh, Sepultura, hands down.
All right. Sepultura really made its changes from Chaos to Roots, and the next progression was kind of Soulfly when he went his own way. But I'm with you on that one, because I love the thrash that they brought to the table. Schizophrenia, Morbid Visions, and then when things started, escalating, Beneath the Remains and so forth. I'm with you. Hell yes. Yep. Okay, how about these guys? Overkill versus Sacred Reich.
That's gonna be Overkill. Another one that's fairly easy for me, because man, Feel the Fire.
Feel the Fire. Yes.
Crushes. And then their demo is like my 3 favorite demos of all time: Militia, Nasty Savage, and that Overkill demo, hands down. Shit. Overkill. The first one was tight with Crumbsuckers, Cryptic Slaughter, but these last 2, man, blowouts. Because Overkill's, it's a top band for me. I mean, nothing against Sacred Reich. I like the first couple, but man, hands
Overkill,
down.
Bobby Blitz. Oh, love him, man. He's still sounding fantastic. I saw him a couple of years ago when they had Exhorder opening up for him on a tour, and they came down here and played. I think they had what's his name, Matt Bittner from Shadows Fall on Drums.
That's right. Yeah, you're right.
Great. They're still fucking killing it. Love that. Okay, next one. How about Possessed versus Celtic Frost?
That's tough.
Yeah.
Because that's
the first creators of death metal, with the actual name of the song Death Metal in 7 Churches. Hell yeah.
That's a tough one. If it's, I mean,
how about you go the first 2 albums, Morbid Tales versus Death Metal?
Yeah, I'm going to give the slight edge to Possessed, just because it's well, I'll say it like this: there's the 80s Possessed. There's nothing I don't like, because they were a short-lived band at the time.
Yeah.
They put out Beyond the Gates and then the Eyes of Horror, and then they kind of drifted off, called it a day. Celtic Frost went through some unfavorable albums, like they got for someone who says we'll never wimp out, they got pretty close to it on the cold lake or whatever it was called, frosted. I don't know, but no, I'm leaning toward Possessed because it's like that was a great band and they knew when to quit, and I don't know what those other guys are doing. Well, of course Larry's in Primus, but like Mike Torreo and Mike Suss, the drummer. I don't know if they're approving of Jeff Becerra doing Possessed these days, but it's so long. Like the gap is so long there. Like we were talking about earlier, like if I wanted to do something now, which I don't, but like it's people can tell that that's not really Possessed. I mean, you know what Possessed is, and it's got the same guy singing, okay, but is that Possessed? Not really. At least that's my opinion. For all those who love Possessed, I'm sorry, but it's not the real Possessed, but it's still good. I've seen them a couple times with festivals, Midnight, still good. They deliver. It's powerful, but like Possessed ended after Eyes of Horror to me.
Eyes of Horror,
my opinion.
But it's like you said, some bands have that short run, and that's their part of history that will never be. It's unforgettable, and they left their mark, and Possessed made that happen.
Like they say, about opinions, so that's only mine. So. I would go Possessed.
Possessed. I love it, man. Hell yeah. I'm going to do a bonus question real quick. Who do you favor more? Do you favor more the King Diamond highs or the Jeff Tate kind of highs?
If you're asking me who of those two, a singer, definitely Jeff Tate, but I like Merciful Fate probably better than any. Although, god dang, I don't know, man. The first Queensryche EP is it's another of my top 10s. That and Melissa are both. But style wise, definitely Jeff Tate because the dude is just phenomenal. Not that King Diamond is not. Of course, I love King Diamond, but that one I would have to go with Jeff Tate. Love them both a lot. King Diamond is very high on my list, but Jeff Tate, like. Man, the EP and those first couple albums, that's another world, man. People hadn't. I mean, we've always had Rob Halford, but man, Jeff Tate was special, man. That stuff he was doing, that was special stuff, man.
I love it. I love
give
that.
The edge to Jeff Tate.
And Jeff is still out there making it happen. I think he's going to be in the Aztec,
still doing it
here soon. Jeff, I love Jeff.
That much talent, you almost have to keep doing it if you have that kind of talent. Like, what else are you gonna do? You sing like an angel, and you're gonna have a day job? No, I don't think.
Nah. Big shout outs and props to the man Jeff Tate and to the King. Yes, we love the King too. Who is also a Texan. I like that about him. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, he is. Yeah.
Okay, let's see if this is gonna be a tough one for you. How about Dark Angel versus Exodus?
Well, damn. Okay, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I can go two ways. I could say Dark Angel. Dang. I don't know. I don't even know if I can say that. If you're comparing Bonded by Blood with Darkness Descends, that's like the second and third best thrash album.
Best thrash, right? Yeah.
It's like Rain and Blood, and then those are 1A and 1B, But
yes.
But career-wise, I prefer Dark Angel because I'm not down with all the Exodus stuff, although they did put out a lot of good albums, but man, Bonded by Blood, when you start off like that, holy crap,
right.
That's just, if you compare first albums now, I would go Bonded by Blood over We Have Arrived, but Darkness Descends was so much better than We Have Arrived, so those two are kind of neck and neck. So if I had to pick a band, I'm gonna say Dark Angel because we toured with them and everything. But Bonded by Blood, everybody knows that album's legend. There's nothing you can say that album is legend. Period.
Legendary. I love it. I love the ferocity, the imagery too. The Bonded by Blood, yes, dude, the devil and the good child. It's kind of like, it's kind of like all of us were at one time when we got experience into metal. We were once good kids, And then we got into the heavy metal part, and then we wanted the horns came out. Shit like that. So I still got my shirt. I love Bonded by Blood. I always will fucking be a big Exodus fan. But did you catch Dark Angel in this last run they did with Hyrax and Sacred Right?
Yeah, I saw that.
Dude, they sounded, all the bands sounded great, but Hoagland is still, he's still the beast of all beasts.
It's got 4 out of the people from Leave Scars, so it's got what you need. It's got the right lineup. It's not, like I said, if it was Gene and some hard guns, it probably wouldn't be the same. But it's got the crew, and R.I.P. to Jim Durkin, because he can't be around because he's no longer with us. But it's pretty legit. It's as close to original as you can get.
Yep, good shit. I got one more for us. Yeah. These are the big dogs in our world. Who's the most important band out of these two to you, Metallica or Black Sabbath?
To me, Metallica, because I've been there from day one with Metallica. I mean, there wasn't a time in my life when I didn't know Metallica, but there's been a time like Black Sabbath. My first album was We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll, which was a compilation. Yeah. And I was so young that I didn't even know it was a compilation. I loved it. All the songs were great. It blew me away, and I was like, "Holy crap!" But the first album that I remember buying as it came out from them was Heaven and Hell, and it had Dio singing. So I'm one of the very, very few that will say, I don't just give the nod. I mean, Ozzy is Black Sabbath. Okay, don't get me wrong. I don't want to put the wrong words out there, but I'm a Dio guy, man. Like Dio and Black Sabbath it just brought a different energy. It brought a different feel. And like I said, those were the first 2 I bought as they came out, Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules. And man, there's more energy, there's more intensity. And don't get me wrong, 70 Sabbath rules. We all know that. And, people can send me hate mail or whatever, that 70 Sabbath rules. But man, it was just a different animal with Dio. He's to me, he's a better singer. The energy was, the songs were a little faster. That's what created my, like, the era of music I love the most over anything is new wave of British heavy metal. Because from 1979 to 1982, things were happening that were just phenomenal, man. Like bands were just coming out of the punk scene into metal, but it wasn't your typical Judas Priest style metal. It was heavier, more do-it-yourself. All these bands releasing singles out all over the place. I mean, bands like Angel Witch, Tank, Diamond Head, that kind of stuff is my favorite era of music because it started changing everything. It was getting aggressive and getting powerful and getting fast, and early Saxon, early Maiden, that's the stuff I love, man. Hands down. That to me, that's a magical time period for music. And of course, that's what gave us Metallica, like if Lars was listening to all that stuff, Lars worshiped Diamond Head, so that's what created Metallica, and Metallica blew the doors off everything. And, if, the first day I went into Record Bar and bought that thing in 1983, if somebody would have looked me in the face and told me, this is going to be the biggest metal band in the world, I would have laughed at you. Like, there's no way. Look at the back of this record. These are like pimple-faced little kids, They're not going to overtake Maiden or Priest or, even Motley Crue, that kind of stuff. No way. But hands down, biggest metal band of our lifetime, man.
They did it. They fucking did it. Man. I love it. Rodney, I love it right there. Metallica will always be one of the biggest, best bands in the world. And I'm glad we got to enjoy them right as they were getting started. Oh, yeah. Rodney, thanks a lot for joining me tonight. I love going through the history.
Thanks for having me.
For all you guys that are watching on the show tonight, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Jason Levine, real quick, he says, I remember being at their first show, opening for Anthrax. Devastation was awesome. Total thrash, the real deal. You are the real deal, Rodney. That's why I've always been a follower and a big fan of yours. Thanks for joining us for the podcast tonight. And I want to keep up with you and keep in touch. And I hope to see you down here at Corpus next time so we can catch up and do some visiting.
And props to you, man, for keeping the Corpus scene going with all your bands. And even this show like this, man, podcast. I mean, you're trying to spread the metal and keep people into it. And guys like you, we need more of that, man. So hats off to you, too.
Thank you so much, Rodney. I appreciate you. To everybody watching the show tonight, make sure you're listening to Devastation. Give them a follow, give them a like. Keep cranking the Devastation, whether it's Violent Termination, Signs of Life, Contaminated, any of the demos, for all you, for lifers, and for all of you that haven't ever heard Idolatry, where the fuck have you been? Crank that up. Listen to it tonight, all right? You won't be fucking sorry. It's going to be one of your favorite records. Rodney, till next time, let's keep in touch. Keep it metal forever, brother. This has been a great night for me. Thanks for making it happen. And God bless you and your family. And I'll see you at the next show.
All right, bro.